Okay. And we should be live and ready to go.
And it's 2:45. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Maryland Go Team meeting. You all should have received the agenda in your email yesterday. And it was posted online. At this time, only members of the Go Team may participate in discussion. Any members of the public
Don't have anybody yet.
must sit quietly. Okay. We will call the Go Team meeting to order at 2:46 p.m. And our first order of business is to call roll. Alice, you're supposed to call roll. We have the list of people, if not, I can hear you.
That'd be great, thank you. Okay, please respond present when your name is called. Denise Brinkslett. Present. Stephanie Schumacher.
Present.
Becky G. Fox. Present. Sheila Dees. Present. Alva Huff. Present. Addison Draper. Jahari Harris. Present. Alice Kruger. Present. Ari, well, don't make it wrong, but here.
Thank you. And I'm present.
Oh, you're not there, Libby Terrace.
I put myself.
Whoopsie.
Okay, Alice, in your professional opinion, is there a quorum present?
Yes.
Great.
Greetings.
Oh, great. Here we go.
Well, y'all wanna scooch and I'll move this chair of you. Oh, wait.
Just be easier for me to.
Yeah.
Put it on the
Oh,
table.
but it's not here.
Thank you. You know.
Sorry.
Almost. Okay, so now we'll add Madison being present as well.
Excellent.
The first order of business is to approve the agenda. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
A second?
Second.
That's a motion from Alice, second from Addison. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, now you should have received the link for the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone have any corrections from the minutes?
I think the only action item is the minutes from the meeting, 2 meetings before that she brought up in the email.
Which we haven't located.
Okay.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the August 13th meeting?
Motion to approve.
A second?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, now we can move on to the action items. Oh, no, we did those. Now we can move on to the discussion item. And we will start with the school strategic plan. Here we are. Which you can see on your screen. And I'm not gonna read over this entire thing because it's very lengthy. But just quickly, the vision at Mary Lynn is to foster students who are lifelong proactive learners. They will learn to become clear communicators using innovative problem solving to address complex issues facing our community and world. We plan to do this by educating students through meaningful interdisciplinary experiences. Partnerships among students, teachers, and the community will prepare our students to be caring and creative risk takers ready for the world. And we've created a few SMART goals that we kind of added to this chart last spring. You'll see the first one, we will increase proficiency in the ELA by 1% through 2025 for grades 3 through 5. Increase 2% in math on GMAT. Show overall growth for 75% of the population in ELA and math. And increase the percentage of students in subgroups who score proficient in GMAT. Give everybody a minute if they want to glance over the rest.
To clarify, this is something we set up last year.
Same.
But
Not
not
an edited
You're
version.
not changing? No, not in this meeting.
Not in this meeting, I do believe maybe the
There's a
next,
different-
there is going to be a meeting where we are going to revamp this. Because I do believe, I can't go back, because I don't have my mouse, but this is a through 2025 strategic plan, it'll be our
Got it,
job
okay.
this year to develop, I think, the framework for the 2025 through 2030 plan. So we'll
Oh.
copy this and edit it, because, you know, we already know that those goals are similar to our current goals this year on our continuous improvement plan and our, you know, our school-wide improvement goals, but they need to be tweaked a little bit, so that work will come, I guess, later.
Mhm.
So part of it is tying the data that we're gonna discuss later today to what.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and break slide. Here is our strategic plan priority ranking. You'll see number 1 was equitably aligned school resources with the Maryland mission and vision to become STEAM certified school. And then you can kind of read through the rest of the, if you can't read them, let me know.
Same as last year, have not changed since
Correct.
last year, so, you know, at some point in the future, if we want to. Add to, change, reshuffle, we can.
This is also the same as last year. It's connecting the strategic plan with the continuous improvement plan. Like equitably using school resources and data to implement our SMART goals. And those will be shown through our indicators like math growth scores, go to milestone scores, right scores. And then observation and feedback.
And then just to kind of, yeah, just to kind of elaborate on this, so these are our strategic plan priorities, these are 2 of them, that. We called out last year, so these are from our old strategic plan. I still very much so think that they're gonna continue as priorities, but these SMART goals. Are, if you'll see here, our current ones, so this is the 25-26 school year, so these are a little bit. More current than what you saw in the strategic plan, so the idea. When we get to the planning phase is to align our strategic plan goals with our SIP, stands for continuous improvement plan. You don't hear a whole lot about a SIP at Mary Lynn because we're not a Title I school. SIPs are an integral component of Title I funding, so schools that receive Title I funding. Have a lot of work on their SIP, and there's a lot of frequent check-ins. For us, it's kind of just like an added, you know, improvement indicator or plan, really. So yeah,
Again, what is the
continuous improvement plan.
And you can't go back, right?
Well, I can.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna show it to you this.
Yeah, I can.
Priority.
Yeah.
Oops.
Thank you.
Shall I move on?
Yes, our next discussion item is the data discussion, and Denise will tell us about that.
Yeah. So if you were here for this discussion last year, hopefully you remember some of the nuances between achievement and growth, but I will review. So this is the dashboard showing our students' achievement on the fall MAP growth assessment. If you'll remember, this is a universal screener, so all students in the district take it. And it is a baseline data point. So we use this as a jumping off point for the school year. This is these are the quintiles for achievement. So I left a lot of info up top so you could see what the colors mean. This is the percentile for achievement. So if you are in the 80th percentile for achievement, that means that you scored the same or better than 80% of the other kids. So that's what the percentile ranks mean. You can see for reading and ELA at Mary Lynn, we have 58% of our kiddos are above the 80th percentile, 24% are between 61 and 80. And then, you know, a smaller number of kiddos are in the red, orange, and yellow, but very much so priority as well. This is math, very similar. You can see that we have 55%, we're right here. 55% of our kiddos
we're in the 80th percentile or above for math. 27% in that green range. And then a handful of kiddos, smaller percentage in those red, orange, and yellow categories. This is science. Science is 5th grade only because science milestones is for 5th grade only. And you can kind of see our achievement here. Science, we find typically is very aligned to ELA achievement because the science assessment is very much so reading and analyzing and interpreting texts. Nonfiction texts, right? Texts about science topics, but very much so aligned to whether like your strength as a reader. So this is really great. This tells us that our 5th graders are really able to read and retain and speak to those science standards. Now we're going to kind of look at the comparison. So the district utilizes MAP as an indicator for student performance on Georgia milestones. And they started in the past couple of years to give us this really nice comparison reading so we can see if that actually is true. Is MAP indicating success on milestones for us, or is it not? It's kind of, right, to some degree. So I kind of tried to pull out all the other data points so it was a little bit easier to read. Up here's our 3rd graders. This is last year, right? So this is not including our fall score from the we just took. This is just 24 through 25. I wanted to kind of show this data to kind of set us up for looking at it this year, 25, 26. So this is the percentage, and this is the percentage of distinguished students only. Yeah, that's why the numbers look like this. So in 3rd grade in reading, at the beginning of the year, 33% were scoring distinguished. Throughout the year, that's what it looked like. And then we ended up on the actual milestones having 37% of the kids distinguished. So 37% of kids were distinguished on spring MAP, and then 37% were distinguished on milestones. That's pretty accurate, right? But then if you look at something like 4th grade math, okay, only the very few kids were ever in the distinguished category for math, but then when they took the milestones, 58% of them were distinguished. I have some ideas about why I think this is happening. Similarly, in 5th grade, both MAP spring assessments underperformed and distinguished, while on the actual milestones, kids actually overperformed what they did in MAP. And then if you look at the overall here with 3, 4, and 5 combined, there's definitely a difference in math. And I think, I don't know if any of the teachers want to jump in as to why you think that that might be the case, but it's a little bit more on point when you're talking about indicating reading achievement, a little bit less so for math.
Yeah, I know, 2nd grade's not on there, but I know when we were looking at it, one of the things that instantly stood out was just the reading comprehension that is needed to be successful within math at that point, because those questions, jumping from kindergarten to 1st grade, they are being read to them. So when they move to 2nd grade, there is a drop sometimes because they're not having to read on their own and having to also interpret it. And there's transitioning from learning to read to reading for learning.
Okay.
And so that would be the biggest explanation for me that I would see with those scores.
Yeah,
Comprehension.
absolutely. And then in the upper grades, right, when we think about 3, 4, and 5, MAP is a computer adaptive assessment, right? So it adapts up and up and up and up, and reading skills, you can analyze, identify, and explain character traits in a 4th grade text. If you can access and read a 6th grade text, you probably can identify and talk about the character traits in a 6th grade text and then an 8th grade text. So reading skills we find are just much more transferable up and down the continuum, whereas math skills are a little bit less so, because you know, if a 4th grader was asked about an exponent and they have never learned about exponent,
Right.
they're not going to be able to like figure that out,
Yeah.
you know, or muck through it. So that's kind of why I would say, you know, there's a little bit of a disconnect.
Yes, especially that vocabulary.
Yes,
That
yes.
that vocabulary.
Yes, when we were talking about dividend, divisor, you know, quotient, you know, if a kid has not been exposed to, especially like in 3rd grade, kiddos are maybe not at the beginning of the year or even by the end of the year, they haven't mastered those skills. It's not 3rd grade standard. Okay. Oh, here.
One question is this data something you put for other schools too? like other peer schools to Marion, I think.
Now, this, the other data, yes, so like these comparisons, anything that you see that looks like this. We
Right.
do get those other school scores, like that aggregate data, but the digging down, no, we can't, we don't see other schools.
When you
Unfortunately,
compare it amongst yourselves, you, Spark and BHE and one, so.
no, we haven't, we could.
The main reason for that, for me asking, is when you can find out if the discrepancy happens in other. schools.
Yeah, I would, that's interesting. And we do have a principals meeting next week. We're all gonna be together, so I would love to ask and see, because I'm sure that that's very common, when you have kiddos who are achieving beyond, in math. And then this is the same exact graph, but you know how I said this one was distinguished, this one is proficient and above. So when you're talking about if you're combining both distinguished and proficient kids, it's a little bit closer to the mark, right? In fact, this is when we end up with kids, so 8% of kids, right, which is, you know, for 3 or 4 kids, it said that they were gonna be proficient on milestones per map, but then they actually ended up being developing, and developing is right below proficient. So, you know, interesting, same with math that we saw in distinguished. But also, we think about why this could be map, that you don't have to actually compose anything on map. There's no actual written responses on map assessment because it's computer adaptive. Everything is selected response. When children get to the milestones, they actually have to compose, right, and write, and respond to texts. So that is why you saw on the former slide, as far as the key indicators go, we are also looking at right score. Right score is an assessment where the kids do actually respond to a text and write narrative, extended narrative responses or extended text-based responses. So we use that data to kind of help us figure out where we're going with writing.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Where in the calendar is spring map and last one?
Great question. So we talked a little bit last time about how APS deleted the spring map assessment. They have opened back up the opportunity for a spring map assessment. However, it was not in our preferred time range. My thought was if we could get a spring map assessment on the calendar, we could choose when it is, but we cannot. So it is like the end of March,
If you opt in,
if you opt.
can you opt in, sorry?
Because when I got in these scores, when was spring map and spring and milestones?
We probably had like what, 4 weeks between, maybe 4 weeks.
Okay, and that, I was just gonna say, it's probably about 4 weeks, maybe 4.5, close to 5 weeks.
It depends on what
Sometimes
grade
like
level you
right
are.
after.
Yeah, I would say about 4 weeks probably.
Can you opt in to MAP for just 5th grade? Kids
Yeah.
are trying to get into.
Oh, yeah, no, we can opt into who, we can do whatever we want within that window. It's just, I was hoping that the window would be much later, because the idea is having an end of the year point. An end of the year data point does not happen on April 4th. You know, you got a whole month and a half of school left. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We're still in discussions about how all that spring map is gonna work. But yeah, traditionally it has been about 4 weeks before the milestones assessment. And then what ends up happening is if you're a kindergarten, first or second grade teacher, you have to give that assessment with a month and a half of school left. And then by the time it's May 10th, you're like, wow, I really wish I could give the milestones assessment now, or the map assessment now. And so that was my idea. And I did ask specifically, can I open up a window for Mary Lynn to test our K1 and 2 students in the first couple of weeks of May? And I was told hard no, because the testing and assessment team does not have the capacity to build and run multiple assessment windows, unfortunately.
You know how many schools are going to do the March spring?
Good question. Not yet. Not yet. They only have had us fill out the form to indicate interest at this point.
Random question then.
Yeah.
If that is the case then that means, let's say hypothetically, we don't do spring, right?
Mhm.
And we just do the winter one. The winter one is normally like, is that December?
It'll be December.
Right?
It's gonna be December.
So when we loop back around to look at data, again, we're gonna be basing off of December data to And so then for the schools that opt to do it, how are we gonna, how are they?
So that's, so,
You know what I mean?
great question and clarification. The spring math assessment is gonna be our own thing, to handle data analysis wise.
Mhm.
None of the spring assessment pieces are going to be uploaded into APS graphs.
Okay.
So we will be able to assess, utilize the data like we do already. I mean, to be honest, we look at it more in WEA, I would say, with, as a teacher, you know, than we would use APS graphs for.
Right.
But no, the spring data will not be in APS graphs.
And so that means when they're considering successes, so they'll be solely based off of milestones, I'm assuming. Like moving forward,
I
because
mean-
they wouldn't have, that map data wouldn't be an accurate measure for winter.
It does not seem so.
Yeah.
But there also is the Mastery Connect
Mhm.
midpoint, mid-semester checkpoints that they're gonna be using, and we don't know what those are gonna look like yet. So these are our spring 2025 end of grade results. This is the milestones assessment. You can see at the top, this is grades 3, 4, and 5 combined. And then this is the 3 through 5 breakdown. So as far as the growth that students are expected to experience from 3rd to 5th grade, that's awesome, right? We have about 23% of our kiddos in 3rd grade who scored developing, who are now in 4th grade. We have 22% of these kiddos who scored developing in 4th grade and are now in 5th grade. So I am gonna tell you guys about the plan that we have to increase to move some of these kiddos from yellow into our proficient, and how we can move some of these kiddos who are in proficient into distinguished, in those grades 3 and 4 specifically. So that's that breakdown. Questions? Okay. Here's math, 3 through 5. You know, similar to our 3rd grade ELA scores, we had this chunk of 20-ish% of students who were in that developing category. You know, many more kiddos were in that proficient and distinguished category in math in 4th grade. So definitely capitalizing on that for their 5th grade year. Wanting to move those kiddos from proficient and developing into distinguished.
I have a question. How were the schools selected as comparisons?
I selected Midtown Jackson because that's what our associate superintendent is over. So generally when we're, everything that we do is Midtown Jackson, because Ms. Sofianos is the boss over both those. Yeah. So this is exciting news. This is our subgroup performance. So the highest performing subgroup in Maryland is actually our Hispanic students. Sweet, right? That represents, I think, 26 students was the
More than
number.
I-
Yeah, that represents.
3rd and 5th grade.
Mhm.
So out of you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So how interesting, right? And so this is the percentage of kids who are proficient and above. That's high indicator.
Yeah.
The district's indicator that they use for subgroup comparisons is developing and above. So we go a step beyond that and we consider proficient and above because we're working toward proficiency, right? So if you'll see the gap, our achievement gap, if you will, right? If you were to call it that, is only 9 points compared to the district's achievement gap between Black and white students.
But isn't that an unfair comparison, given that the schools that
The
we're talking about-
numbers.
Yeah, the numbers are so skewed. I don't know if we can make that comparison that, you know, this is a, what is that? 40% gap, but then you're talking about schools that have higher ratios of like, you know.
Well, really what it is, though, look for Maryland, just because of the history of the data, a lot of times sometimes it will be a lot lower. And so
Yeah.
one of the goals was making sure that subgroup was able
Just like.
to increase over time. So over the last few years.
Yes.
Of looking at the
So
data.
more important really
It's
is to
really-
look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Exactly.
big-
Than Lynn.
Right.
Yeah.
The comparison is like they have to give it. The comparison is district.
Yeah, this comes, it all comes
That's
on the
district.
same screenshot. Yeah.
However, for us, over the last
Right.
few years, we've grown substantially.
Yeah, this bar, if you look longitudinally, started like here, right? And it went up, and this bar has really just stayed the same.
And I think that's what I've been just struggling with, is just, it's a lot of comparisons to other
Mhm.
schools or the districts, and part of me is like, in a large way, that's irrelevant to like, what is Maryland doing and how well are Maryland students, irregardless of what's happening in other schools, but that's helpful to know.
Yeah.
That would just keep
I
it in
think
mind.
also the,
greater
because it is looking at
discrepancy.
percentages, obviously, there is a difference in like the breakdown of those students, but one thing it says is even though they are minority
ratio.
populations, like it's a ratio, but even though they are minority populations in the Lynn district or school zone, like what is helpful here to me is that our line is relatively, I mean, I'm not trying to dismiss a 19% gap between the highest and the lowest here, but that our groups across the board are fairly, like, we're not leaving certain groups so far behind
Yeah.
other groups.
And if you guys have specific questions, I mean, I did try the very first meeting last year to actually pull up APS graphs, and we just like took way too long because there's so many different things you can look at. Like, you can even look at the percentage, like, if you're a student with disabilities at Mary Lynn, right? Every subgroup at Mary Lynn is outperforming the larger subgroup in the district.
Of course.
Right, and I think that that is to be understood because our SES generally is much higher than the majority of the district, and that has a lot to do with achievement on tests such as these. So, totally understand that, but you will see, or you can see the difference between, like, if you're a gifted learner at Mary Lynn versus a non-gifted learner at Mary Lynn, it doesn't matter. Both gifted learners and non-gifted learners at Mary Lynn are outperforming the gifted and non-gifted learners district-wide. So that's just really proving the point that, like, we're lifting, that the rising tide lifts all boats, right? Like, we are really focusing in on all students, and it's a benefit to any kiddo to come to Maryland, regardless of ethnicity, disability status. We don't have any ESL kids, but we have in the past, learned other second languages.
There are no ESL students at Maryland, like not one, not the whole.
Now, let me stop, let me stop.
Yeah.
There are children who could be an ESL,
okay.
and their parents were denied the services, which is their right.
Yeah.
So yes, we do have children who could qualify for ESOL, yeah. Okay, this is math, proficient and above. Interestingly enough, our highest performing subgroup is multiracial students, that's students who, 2 or more races. Which is very interesting and great. And also small, right? I mean, these subgroups, I believe that Black and non-Hispanic is our largest subgroup if you compare it to Hispanic and multiracial. Multiracial might be almost equivalent to Black non-Hispanic. But you know, those cohorts of kids are small and they're doing well.
It would be interesting to know how many kids are in each of these groups, and I feel like that's probably something easy to find that I.
Yeah, I mean, if we pulled up the actual APS
Okay.
graphs dashboard, you could see that. And you know, to some degree, a lot of this data, probably not this zoomed in, but those aggregate dashboards are available to the public. It's called APS Viz, V-I-Z, if you look it up online. And a lot of this information is available to anybody who wants to look at it.
The only reason not to put the number of students is because if you're like, well, there's 12 Hispanic students.
Yes.
And then you know who the
Well,
kids are who are in that.
Absolutely.
category.
I'm more so
And that's kind of
thinking
what each of their privacy.
74% if you're talking about 10 total
No,
kids,
no.
it's different than.
Subgroups with less than 15 are not displayed.
That's, yes.
Okay,
So there's at least 15 at least kiddos between 3, 4, and 5. So yeah, and sizes, sample sizes of less than 15 are not included because it's easily identifiable.
And then it's also to this, actually really cool to just think of, I love data, let me just say, cool, come back, I love data. But, so I look at this, I was sit and watch this, but just watching the populations over time, this also speaks to how Mary Lynn has grown as well in terms of demographics, because a few years ago,
There wasn't
the
all these
Asian
subgroups.
Pacific was a group that, even though there were students that qualified, that were of that subgroup, it wasn't enough numbers in the grades for that to even be counted.
Right.
So they could have been proficient, but it wouldn't have shown, it wouldn't have even counted in this part of the.
I think that was just.
No, so this is the district.
Okay, so it's still, okay, well, there we go. Scratch that. Sorry, I didn't
To be honest, when we're talking about the,
very light line.
well, you're right, but to this point of the conversation we're having, I wonder, this subgroup, Native American,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, this is only like 17 for the whole district. So I wonder if we should put that on. That's what we need.
but I'll tell them that at the principal's meeting next week. Okay, oh, that's all my slides.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Okay. Do you want me to let you take back over? I don't know if we were supposed to next. Oh, no, wrong way, wrong way.
Yeah, you can tell
Okay.
us about our glows and grows.
Oh, yeah.
Your
Yes, so strong ethnicity subgroup performance in comparison to subgroups across the district and state. In addition, subgroup performance growth over the past 3 years. Continued achievement in grades 4 and 5 in ELA and math. Our grows in areas of focus in 3rd grade, focusing on making departmentalization work. This is the second year that our 3rd grade team is departmentalized. Departmentalized, if you don't know, means that one teacher teaches reading and social studies and one teacher teaches math and science, and they split the kids, which is a lot. It's a lot to have to manage. It's a lot to have to work together and make sure that all the babies are getting the same equitable time for subjects. So that's been a priority for us this year. And then also in 4th and 5th grade, we are, which you'll hear in a moment, going to be able to add a couple of hourly teacher support positions with our leveling dollars to push in to specifically target any students who are in that developing category, to push them to proficient. Obviously, also any student who is in that red or beginning category, we're pushing them to developing too. But most of those learners already have supports in place with IEPs, students with disabilities, or students with 504s or in the EIP program. So really wanting to hone in on that developing category to push those kiddos to proficient, because it's so hard when a kiddo gets to 524 and they're developing. And it's like, if they just got a 525, they'd be proficient. You know what I mean? So we have a lot of kids in that kind of, they call it the cusp, right? When you're almost ready to push over and get into that next achievement band. So focusing on that.
What's the impact of that? Like, why does it matter if they're issuing or developing? Does it affect what courses they can take in mid school or high school?
Yes. Yeah, ultimately, yes. It impacts our CCRPI score. So there's various complex equations that are used to calculate a school's CCRPI, their index, and the specific number of points that you earn as a school for your CCRPI on achievement and growth are based directly on the number of kids who are in each of those bands. So if you like when you're calculating a CCRPI, all of the learners and you're building that get a beginning learner designation, you get 0 points for those children. So you don't earn any achievement points for kids who get beginning. Kids who are developing, you earn half a point, so 0.5. Kids who are proficient, that's where you want them to be, you earn 1 point. And then if you have kids who are in distinguished, you actually earn 1.5 point. So really want to have a lot of kiddos. In addition to wanting kids to achieve, obviously.
Because 3rd grade is your first year.
Yeah.
Really, if you're not on level in 3rd grade, it's very hard to catch up as you put your kid in.
But I would think a lot of these numbers are also noisy. So if somebody's right on the cusp, they are like they are proficient. They're just not on number. And then there will be kids who are developing, but because of the randomness in the measurement, are in proficient. Right? So I'm just trying to see like,
Right.
what's the real impact of this?
Yeah.
All of this is an aggregate random
Yeah.
sample.
Mhm.
Right, so it's gonna be a little noisy, so I'm trying to understand how much does it matter? So that's.
Yeah.
Also, I have to ask you later what's CCRPI is, because I don't know what it is, but kids are.
Interesting. Okay, we can talk about that, yeah.
Only things to come, guys.
Yeah, exciting stuff. All right. Well, this was the protocol for discussion. Any of these questions you want to dig into? Notice, wonder? Anything you'd want to share?
Yeah, I'm wondering, because I know that school choice is like now is, I mean, I guess it's pretty new, right? But I know we have so many new students that may have either new to the community or new to whether it's through choice or moved in. And so I am curious to see how it's gonna look now with the subgroups, because our school is looking a little more different now too, because of the choice and just different backgrounds and coming from different schools
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mhm.
So I'm really curious to see, moving forward,
Mhm.
even though this is our strategic plan now, I
Mm.
personally think everything that we've done thus far, probably moving forward is gonna look very different because of We have
Mhm.
choice now, and
Mhm.
so it's not just whoever lives in the, who's been at Mary Lynn for the last however many
Mhm.
years. It's students that are coming from several different.
Well, so just to
areas.
clarify, we have a total of, including kindergarten, 1, 2, 3. We have 8 children who are here on administrative transfer in the entire school. We also have a number of children who attend Mary Lynn as a cluster transfer. That's not a general administrative transfer. So if you are an employee in APS and you work in the Midtown cluster, you can send your kiddo to Mary Lynn. Each year based on our projections and our current enrollment around November, I'll be asked to open a number of seats. And there's 2 categories. There's general administrative transfer seats, which is anybody can apply for those seats, and there's cluster transfer seats. So I opened 1 general administrative transfer seat for every grade level, and then 3 in kindergarten, because we want to beef up the numbers in kindergarten. And then the cluster transfer seats, I opened 5 for each. We do not have 5 cluster transfer kiddos per grade level. We would be way over projection if we did. But if you're noticing, new kiddos and new families joining Mary Lynn, and we've had a lot of folks move here. We've had a lot of folks, more than I would say in the past 3 or 4 years, had, just new families joining the community, which is awesome. But you're totally right. It is a difference, right?
There are 24 in our new student groups. There are more than that, but that was 24 who opted into participate.
Yeah.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah. I know.
And so also to considering that this was a adoption year for our curriculums.
Right.
And I'm really curious, like this.
Very.
Like with how that going.
Me too.
Moving forward.
Me too.
So we, as a district, we had to adopt new curriculums, and so the reading this time is benchmark. At the time, a few years ago, when we were doing, what was it, Fontes and Pinel, for a while, so now we have benchmark, and then our math one is Eureka, which before it was Envisions, and we also have Bridget as, so this is a new, these both are very. Well, because we still our teaching still are teaching, but it's just because I will say some of them are richer in comprehension, like I can tell the difference in the math, like specifically thinking about the math. There's a lot more comprehension that they have to use, and also just maintaining vocabulary usage and the knowledge of that. You can see that a lot in the rigor of how it's designed, and also with the benchmark, there's a lot of heavy comprehension there.
Bringing on the modeling.
What, that's maybe a deeper question we don't have answer right now, but do we have any baseline of how things were on some of these numbers last year?
Yes.
That we can compare to this year, with the numbers we are seeing this year.
We could, and.
I know maybe we don't have it right now.
Well, so up until this year, the 2015 norms were used for the MAP assessment, and they did another norming study, and this year's assessment is the first
New.
time we're using those new norms.
So the numbers themselves won't be comparable.
NWEA would say that they are, obviously, because they want, obviously, their for-profit institution. So, but there is a slight difference, and we can definitely look at that. We can definitely compare. That's all. It also is a little bit apples to oranges. I prefer to look at the cohort achievement, right? I like to look at the cohort achievement over time. So this same group of kids, plus or minus a few, obviously, kids move in and out every year, but how has this same group of kids performed over time? I feel like that can kind of give a little bit more of a picture.
And that data is also not here.
The cohort, I don't think that they have a good cohort view for MAP. We could get a cohort view for milestones, but unfortunately, we only ever have 2 years of that data because they take it in 3rd grade and they take it in 4th grade. So then by 5th grade, we have like 2 years of data, but then after that, they're out. So we only ever really have a couple of years to work with if you're talking milestones, because milestones does give cohort comparisons. I don't believe we have that for MAP that I've seen, but I wonder if they could make that dashboard. I'll do my opinion. Yeah, I can ask them.
Something similar used to exist at the high school level, so they should be.
For MAP.
It wasn't MAP at the time, so no, right. We were able to look at kids from elementary school level. about having a replacement in the school on various achievement. So I'm just saying it should be able to
Yeah,
exist,
yeah,
because
yeah.
something similar had existed.
Well, this is our timeline. We are here. So, I think that's the timeline, since, I don't know why that was there. There we go, sorry, we finally made it, is it my turn to do this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so our projected enrollment was 505. Oh. Our projected enrollment was 505. Our 15-day count was 512. We actually have 514 or 515 now. So, but we don't get money for those folks because they weren't here by August 22nd, so too bad for us. But that's a difference of 7 kiddos. So that means we have a positive budget adjustment of $156,000. That means they're releasing the $115,000 they had in reserves, and they were earning an additional $41,000 for those 7 kids. So for each of those 7 kids that we were up, we get around $5,698 or something. It's whatever that number divided by 7 is. So that's how we got the money. It is a hold harmless year. So this does not matter for Mary Lynn, but for any other schools you're affiliated with, if they were under enrollment, they are not, I've been told, they're not going to take away the reserves. They are going to give schools the reserves. It's just they would not get any additional leveling money. But we had 7 over, so we got more.
Why is it a whole time this year?
Because I don't know.
Made the choice to do it.
I don't know how to answer that one. Oh, well, no, it says to support academic stability in schools.
I don't know what that means. I don't understand. I've been elected here for a board, a lot of board.
I mean, the statement says to support academics.
Great, that's what we want. Like,
So you're not gonna be penalized for being under enrolled, basically.
Because normally they'll
We'll
pull
take
funds.
away from the reserve.
Yeah, so that means they get.
Cause like, and if we were on the other side, we were -7.
They would take
We should, we technically should have lost our reserves and got subtracted. Actually, they would take $41,000 from me that I've already used.
Okay.
So that's why they're saying hold harmless, because schools that are like BHE was at some point, and this is not how it was, but Terry and I were talking, they were like gonna lose $268,000. He would have to literally get rid of staff members.
Okay.
So I think the support academic stability means to keep teachers in the building, really, because there are some schools that would have to lose, they would lose teaching positions, so then that's a whole mess.
Last year, we were under enrolled by 8.
We were.
So we lost like 47 something.
And you did actually lose it, like they took last year, they took it away.
I did not get my reserves. And opening up general administrative transfer seats is one way that we can safeguard ourselves from losing money. Because if I open up one general administrative transfer seat in 1st grade, which I did, then we get a pool of candidates who apply for that seat. It's offered to one person, they join our school community. If we end up being 4 or 5 kids under enrolled a week before school starts in 1st grade, and we're worried we're not gonna meet that number, then I can go to school choice and say, hey, I wanna open up 5 additional seats. Let's welcome 5 more of these 1st graders on that wait list, into Mary Lynn. And win-win.
And that's a lottery process.
Yeah, it's a lottery.
That's a lot, just making sure.
Yeah, yep, it's a lottery.
So she gets to say. The word applicant implies something different, that's why.
Yeah. Apply for lottery.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
It's up to you, if you wanna open seats up.
In most places to it.
Oh, interesting.
So you're opening seats because there's a need for, there's like openings for seats, not like that's what dictates the decision. right?
Yeah, if we're under enrollment.
Like we're under.
Yeah, if we're under, well,
Or even-
really, if we're under projections, we're under or at projection.
That's a cushion.
It's a cushion, and it's to ensure that we don't lose funding. Also, it's to ensure that we are filling seats that we can fill, right? Like if there's kiddos and families and community members who want to come to Mary Lynn and we have 4 open seats,
come up, right? I mean, great, I love it.
And I know that last talked about the fact that like, it's also a balance between like, how much space do we actually have? Like, the fact,
Absolutely.
like, we could. Not we could, there would be people interested in joining beyond those numbers by far, but it, like, you can't just open another class.
And that's
because
why
there's
it's a
all
lot.
sorts of things that-
Right, exactly, right, like, it's a balance, right, like, technically, we could have 28 kids per class in fourth and fifth grade. That's not really best practice, it's not best for kids, so, yeah, it's not best for, yeah. You know, we wanna keep our class sizes small, and we wanna fill the seats, so if there are seats open, we fill them. Okay. Leveling reserve, so this is a copy paste from the slide where we discussed this last year. This was my reserve amount. And this was kind of a shot in the dark, if you will, about what we maybe would use that money for. At that time, we did not know anything about hold harmless. We didn't know if we were going to get or lose those funds. And we talked about this slide deck with the Go team last year, some potential additional investments we can make if we got our reserves. And those included allocating funds to signature programming, depending on the needs of students, potentially fund hourly teaching positions, fund anti-bias training potentially, and or increase funding toward SEL programming, additional hourly hours. All right, so this is what I did with leveling, which was pretty much these things, and I outlined that down here. So first off, we're adding a non-instructional aid to assist with non-instructional needs such as lunch, recess coverage, student support. Because what we're finding is our in-person permanent subs who are instructionally trained teachers, who have teaching credentials, have been pulled for these non-instructional tasks, right? So instead, I'd like to have a non-instructional person on staff who can assist with student supervision, student support, so that those teachers who have worked here for many years and are very good at teaching can actually teach. We can give them segments to teach, specifically focusing on kiddos in third, fourth, and fifth grade who have fewer years left with us here at Maryland. So that's that. We added 2 hourly teachers, like you saw in the previous plan. Yes, we're gonna be able to do that. Awesome. To support current fourth and fifth graders, to move students from beginning and developing to proficient. We are adding stipends. I was able to increase the stipends for teachers who run, some of the teachers who run clubs and some who serve on lead team. Increased not, and you can see the number right here, that correlates to the number, the priority number on that list. If you go back to those 6 priorities, these are the priorities that these changes support. So adding stipends for teachers supports number 6, which is teacher retention. And then increase the non-staffing funds to make investments in STEAM resources. So that's number 1. So instructional supplies and STEAM resources. Really, it's $54,000 to split between 2. So I just put 20 here and 34 here. Unfortunately, a significant amount of this $34,000 probably, we haven't gotten the quote yet, but probably about $15,000 is $15,000 is going to be spent on ink. Because as of this year, the district stopped buying ink for our schools. They also stopped buying paper towels. So paper towels will be $15,000, but ink is going to be a really big investment, and we're doing a lot of work on the front end to make sure we know exactly what printers we have in the building, because we are having to unfortunately take on that task. That's another thing that non-instructional aid is going to help with on-site tech. Great. Okay.
What's PL?
Professional learning. Okay. Okay, all right.
So with this, is this like what's already been done, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Or this is a suggestion?
Yeah, the leveling happened last week before last. All right. Back to you,
Back to
chair
me.
lady.
This is outdated information.
thought so, but that was what's on there and I
This
was.
is what they gave us. It's okay, Diane, there's a lot, just not
Yeah, yeah,
updating all the slides.
it is a lot.
Facilities plan for APS. As of yesterday, they added 2 additional virtual meetings to their plan for next week. I anticipate that neither of them are gonna be a Q&A or commentary situation. It will be, here's our new really revised suggestions, and we will present it to you for an hour and then end call.
Based on just like all these other meetings they've been having.
Yes.
Hmm.
So they're supposed to be having the one for the task force on Monday evening. They may end up changing the time of that, but that will be also just giving us the presentation. And then I believe Wednesday and Thursday, one's at noon and one's at 6 p.m. They're both on Zoom. Do not attend both. They will be the same thing. Repeated. The public meeting is still scheduled for October 20th. We had an overutilization meeting at Midtown 2 weeks ago, which was very well attended by the Maryland community. A lot of people spoke and said they are in support of that first recommendation of adding the 300 seats at Midtown. There were also people who spoke against supporting that plan. And their theme was to not divide neighborhoods, but the reality was it was very divided by neighborhood. Like happening. Like people sat here and lived back here and lived back here. And that may or may not change after next week's presentation. You know, the APS board will get a first read of the recommendations in November, and they're supposed to vote in December. There are 3 candidates running for the at-large position, which will represent the Marion Lynn cluster as well. CPNO is hosting a forum on Zoom next Thursday. Everybody will get to hear from each candidate. If you have questions, you saw in the Rocket Blast, you can submit questions ahead of time for said moderator, which is myself.
Out of here.
Yeah. But I mean, they're all, you know, all 3 candidates are. Yeah, they're.
Read their bios. Yes, I read their bios.
That's great. And I think that's it for the task force, unless anybody has any questions about the long range facilities plan.
I mean, you might not be able to say, do you have a guess of what they're gonna say at the next meeting?
I don't,
I have some.
okay, great.
I forgot. I asked Dr. Johnson at our every Friday, he holds office hours with principals, so we can get straight to the horse's mouth. And I said, Dr. Johnson, please let me know if the presentation that was leaked from a FOIA from December 2024 has any merit. And he said, no. He said, I didn't see that until last week when someone showed it to me. The only scenarios on the table are the scenarios that were presented by whatever Hanover or whatever it is.
So I would agree with that statement that he did not see it.
Yeah, he said they are not planning on.
Right,
changing
I
the
will
line.
say, yes, both he and and Ken Zeff, board member, and Katie Howard, board member, both said, we're not looking to change cluster limits. I will say the consultants keep saying our plans in every city we've been to is to slowly cut neighborhoods. one by one. So I don't know if they're just, you know, one's
Operating
elected office
into-
and one is a paid office.
Yeah,
You know,
Running
so,
in 2 silos, yeah.
right.
What is the reasoning behind hiring that consulting group? Just to get their opinions? Like, if the consulting group's saying, this is what we think you should do. But then people don't like really what they're saying, and as long as they're trying to not following it, I'm sure they're paying them lots and lots of money to do this consulting. But why are we hiring them if we don't necessarily even follow it?
No. The presentation from December in 2024 that Dr. Johnson.
I saw this new, the way like the other day. the thing, like-
Why are we 300 plus
Uh-huh.
seats?
And
Why?
he said repeatedly at the meeting, like, in my opinion, every year should be looking at the lines.
But
Every
that's
year should be.
that he's saying, in my opinion.
Yes, yeah, but why are we hiring him and not
Paying
like
for his
a,
opinion
in,
and not
Is it-
taking his opinion.
yeah, like why did we hire him or why is it not an APS internal thing? I guess I just don't understand the process.
I think it presents an air of like neutrality to say this outside person came in.
But that doesn't mean that they're.
It kind of, yeah, it doesn't mean, I mean, it's just the air that.
Right, because this consultant now, goes on to the next city.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, I just,
Whereas,
it just seems like you'd hire somebody for that reason because you want the neutral party to then make the decision. Because it's hard to make a decision with so many people.
Yeah. I mean, and I,
They're not the decision. I mean,
That's all I know.
the decision makers are answerable to people and.
the board and the superintendent is the one who has
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
rehired and reelected.
not.
Probably, I guess.
It is, and I
It
also
is.
think that it's capacity and experience.
Yeah.
You know, I think that organizations such as the one they hired, have done. For better or worse, I'm not saying it's positive or negative, it's just a fact that they've done the same work in multiple other cities facing similar budgetary and geographical constraints. Yeah. So.
You're getting an unbiased opinion to then come back to the bias table.
Yeah, yeah, I mean. Yeah, and also the emphasis on clusters made its way to APS graphs as well. Something I noticed used to be when we looked in the APS graphs dashboard, we only saw kind of what you saw with the schools, the individual schools, right? So you can see your individual school performance. But now they've added a cluster view up top, so you can see how the clusters are doing it compared to each other, which I thought was interesting. Okay.
So the overutilization meeting was not just about Midtown, but it was all over.
In-
Or
On
in
paper,
theory.
it was Midtown,
Jackson
Jackson,
and
Canyon, North Atlanta.
But the
as far
discussion
as
was
the
all-
Speakers go, there was one woman from North Atlanta who sends her kids to private school, but then proceeded to spend several minutes telling UPS how they should change their plan. There were a handful of Jackson people and then 75%.
Because Jackson has a much higher, like, the number of seats.
They do, and I think they'll have a separate Jackson meeting.
Yeah, I think
Kind of
that-
silly to sleep in that.
Like, they have a bigger impact of what,
Yeah.
the construction
Yeah.
that might be required than.
Yeah, so have more
Midtown.
space,
Yes,
like real estate.
Right.
Like bigger,
Land.
the land, which, I mean, Midtown is like
Right.
one city block.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
In that area is pretty going up a lot though with Westland extension.
Sure, absolutely, it's right there next to it.
So,
You can't wait to, is that concrete company still there, right next to the school, the high school?
yeah, it's there.
I'm like, they're gonna sell that land at a pretty penny at some point. Okay. Oh, this is my principal's report also. Fun run. Fun run's coming up. Don't forget. I'm sure you have it. Don't forget to donate.
Look lately to see the.
September 26th, next Friday
Is the deadline for donation.
is a deadline. I guess actually Thursday, because we do the run on Friday, we do all of our celebrating on Friday, so I think Thursday is when it's gonna stand the rocket. So, just a reminder, this is an example of where the money is going from the PTO for the fun run. So this was shared at the last PTO meeting, wanted to put it out there for you. Any questions?
I have a sort of unrelated question. So back in the day, teachers were given like an allowance. Yes. First, is that something that was?
Okay, two things. One, which she didn't put, if you're an officer, there is an officer training posted on the website. I don't think Diane, she emailed it out, but it's not in the slide. It takes a half an hour. I feel confident that everybody will pass the quiz at the end. While multitasking during the video. But there is that online and I don't know if it's required or suggested, but you'll look at it if you're an officer. The G3 summit is September 27th. They will send out more information about registering to everybody on the Go team. You can go for a portion of it. You do not have to spend the whole day there. And yeah, hopefully somebody can wear any of those.
Is it mandatory? Third question, so when it comes to like, for example, the budget concerns, we're just, I'm assuming this fall semester, just kind of hearing about what's been taking place, and then in the spring, that's when we inform the budget for the following year. Cause like the budget priorities, it seemed like were already set in the spring.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I was trying to understand, yes. So in January, I will get the budget.
Oh, okay, and then we'll talk.
And then we will
what the
talk about
priority items are.
I'll get the projection, we'll talk about allocation, and all of that. In January, February, finalized by March.
Because last year in the spring, there was some significant discussion about budget because the budgeting format was changed. They would make zero or they call it. And that was a new thing that Dr. John. Zero something.
Zero base, that was called.
Something, yeah.
That's what it's called. The starting with $0 for STEAM programming, or for signature programming, starting with $0 for title funding, and having to build back up that budget, yeah.
So, yeah, so that, I mean, I don't know if it affected us as significantly as the schools, but it was a big change last year.
I mean, it did. I mean, when we're talking about that $115,000 of reserves, it's really hard to talk about that because you're basically planning you're planning in March to do something. I mean, you don't even know if you're gonna get the money, right? So, so that was hard, but we have not been told whether they're gonna be doing the zero-based approach again this year. And would not surprise me if they did because of the deficit that we currently still probably.
And then with the reserves, like I saw how you picked the different items online with the strategic goal. And so is it just normally that those items are selected and then the last year's go team voted on them, or you just have the autonomy to select those and move forward?
For the leveling
Yes.
choices, yeah, I
Yes.
just saw those in before. Well, I mean, I have to get it approved by the HR strategic director, and then it has to be approved by the director of HR, and then it has to be by my boss.
Take out of the hat.
And Dr. Usher and all the people, but yes.
She just comes in with a lot of.
However, the discussion with last year with the budget, some of the changes that we did have to discuss, like with the certain positions.
Right.
In 0.5, that may have been 1.5, all of those that we did discuss.
Well, and
They're actually now enacted, like in place now this school year.
And we did, I mean, adding 2 hourly teachers was
Yeah.
something that we said we wanted to do, and they're very hesitant. The other reason that leveling is a little bit less of a team discussion is because what they want us to not do as much of it leveling is add whole teaching positions, whole teachers. Because you don't wanna have to add a position and then abolish it again, because this is kind of just like that in limbo money. So using it for supplies, hourly positions is generally what is suggested. So just some clarity there.
Do we have any public comment?
Stuff back here. Okay. I know, nobody from Go Team jumped on.
I think the Morningside meeting was starting at the same.
Well, I did see there were multiple ones going on
Right.
at the same time, so.
Does anybody have any announcements? Can I ask a question, Stephanie, where we are in this STEAM certification stuff? Is it
Great question. The district is still working on their own certification, similar to like what Cobb has, so if you're familiar with Cobb, the way they do it is you do like. Certifications, you can be a Cobb STEM school, then you can be Cognia, and then you can be DOE. It used to be when I first started this job that we as APS could become Cognia, and they took that off the table. So now you are either nothing or you are DOE, which is like very rigorous compared to even Cognia. So the person who is like, I don't even know what his job title is, but the person who is like the STEAM person in APS has been working to create a certification process similar to Cobb, so that all these schools can become APS STEM schools. Unclear, Denise and I met with him, where he is in that, like, we've seen lots of documents that say like draft across them.
Right.
And I don't know how long they last, or when they're finally approved, like what that means, like, do we already, I believe that we would be like an APS approved school.
Yes,
And I think he kind of indicated that.
absolutely.
But that's not like an official thing. The DOE one is a lot longer process. I need to, so I spent a lot of time at the end of last year working on all these artifacts to submit to them. And then I was waiting for approval from this person and I didn't get it till he came back to school. And so then I sent it to the DOE and then they responded and they said, oh, this is great, don't change anything, but we actually need you to take all of this work you did and put it in this like specific form. And school has started and that is like, I have the form and I also, it's hard to find the time to like transfer it in. So that I need to do, and then once I do that, like, then I guess they will give us feedback.
Right.
I haven't been in like a huge hurry to do it also because they're so slammed that even if I like send it to them tomorrow, I don't think that that means like, okay, now we're coming and now this is gonna happen because like Spark has been working on that form since last year and I think they're just getting the initial walkthrough in October. So we are on the radar, like I did talk to them and we were like, we want you to fill out this form and all these things, but they're, you know, there's not like any official date. Okay. It was interesting, so when I first started this job and all these schools became like STEM and STEAM, they said, okay, in 3 years, you all need to be DOE certified, and that's not actually that thing the DOE says you can do.
Let's
So-
go over the action in terms of years, like, because I've heard
Yeah.
that too, like, normally it's like a 3 year, like, year one is this, and then it's like by the third year, it's like, okay.
I
And,
feel
you know,
that
so
the
it's like-
DOE is getting more and more rigorous, and I think it's because more schools are interested in it and applying, but
Yeah.
they don't wanna give that, they don't wanna give you that. This is what my perception. They don't wanna say you're DOE certified to anybody who just like wants to
Right,
apply.
yeah.
They want it to really mean something, and they're a department of like 2, sometimes 3 people. So they are dealing with like a
Entire
whole
state.
state of schools that are in this like pipeline, and so just not that many. I mean, I don't remember what the percentage is. It's a very small percentage. of
Not very many
schools
schools.
that actually have a DOE certified.
I mean, it's less than 50.
And so
It's
what's that
way less than 50, I
expectation?
think.
What comes with it? Is it just being?
Nothing. I mean, not, I mean, not funding, but like the.
I mean, I would say the prestige, I would also
Yeah,
say
yeah,
it
but
provides a really strong opportunity for collaboration, because as a STEAM or STEM certified school, you kind of serve as a model for other schools who are interested in going down that route. So
Yes.
as a certified school, we would be inviting educators from all over the state who are interested in becoming in work at schools that are on the path to becoming STEAM certified. So they would be visiting us, we would be collaborating with them. We would also be collaborating with other schools that are STEAM certified. So it's more just, it's almost like a professional organization, right?
Yeah.
Where you're kind of like engaging in the work alongside people who are similarly focused.
But then also to that though, Denise, isn't it that, with the district too, all this, we have to have a signature program
Yeah.
or something, so it just happens to be, it could have been IB if that's still a thing.
It
I don't know if
is,
that's
yeah,
a thing.
either IB.
It could have
or-
been, yeah, so. it's
Yeah, we
like
either have to
chose-
choose, we had to choose to go one or two routes.
And
years.
yeah, like Denise said, if you are a DOE school, you have to host 2 like days of the year. So we're this year gonna try and send as many teachers as possible to some of to those schools. They are like releasing them as those dates are becoming available. And you know, that to me is one of the best ways to learn about what's happening or what it even looks like.
Absolutely.
I think we don't always know like what it looks like to be Steve. And just something else to say.
If you have to get, like, I know that we don't have that yet, but based off of like their process and type of thing, will we say that we're like, what, a year 2 process, or you're?
No, it's
we
hard,
still kind of like.
4th year in the position, but like we end up doing a lot,
I mean,
a lot.
Yeah.
what it feels like is like if the Georgia team had the capacity to
We would be.
individually process schools, we would be certified, but we kind of got caught in the gap between them running the show themselves and then pushing more of the responsibilities out to districts, because it's just been kind of like back and forth between who are we actually working with to get the certification. You know, they're talking to Georgia and they're saying they're pushing us back to APS, but then we're not gonna necessarily getting what we want from APS, but it says APS is still developing their idea of what they want it to look like. So we unfortunately we're caught in the middle, but
It sounds like too, this STEAM school certification, I saw that was like a strategic goal from last year. I'm not like this has been ongoing.
Oh, yeah.
They're not taking right.
You know what I was gonna say about IB, so IB, you know, has been a program forever, and has like very not strict, but like clear guidelines, and expectations and trainings. Like I used to work in IB school. When I was hired at that IB school, I was sent to a week-long training. It was a requirement of working there. It talked about what IB meant. Looked at like, what does it look like in your classroom? Here's what you do. That doesn't exist for STEM or STEAM. So also it kind of feels like everybody's just like building the plane, or what are you flying the plane as you build it, right? Because IB has been around for so long, and it's like so clear, like if I'm applying to college as an IB student, graduate, they know exactly what that means.
Yes.
And that is not a thing that exists right now, it doesn't seem like, especially not in elementary school for certain STEAM.
Yeah.
So I think that even like trying to decide, well, what trainings are we gonna get?
Mm-hmm.
What do we follow? What are we focusing on? Like that even in the 4 years I've been in this job, it's gotten more clear, like within the state, what they provide.
Right.
And what the district seems to know, so it feels like it's just still evolving.
There's a little more creativity in it, which speaks to what STEAM supports though.
Yeah,
Like,
yes.
It goes in a circle.
Related to the kind of point you just made about when you're applying to a college from a high school, that's like IB, right?
Mhm.
About a math and tech college or a high school, or is it Gwinnett County?
Gwinnett has a lot of like math, like
Yeah.
arts magnets, yeah, they have a lot of that.
And a lot of those schools, and this is, I should preface this by saying this is like a bigger philosophical conversation, like this is not about a strategic goal. But a lot of these schools are placed in high school, and like from kind of a developmental perspective, we understand adolescents are really honing in on their skills and their interests and that kind of targeted support. Whereas in elementary school, when it is like that middle childhood, early childhood, like age range, and it's all about like them being exposed to anything and everything and just gobbling it all up, is it to the benefit of them to try to like put them in this like track at this stage? Or is it, and it's not to say like STEM isn't STEM, of course STEM is valuable, but is there a better use of like your time and chasing down the DLE if you know that it's not necessarily developmentally aligned and it's not?
Well, I can speak to that a little bit, because I think I know what you're saying. The thing, as a teacher's perspective, the thing I appreciate about STEAM is because we do hit all of those categories, to not necessarily try to create a path for them, but just showing them options. And so even too, with like recently having the Alliance Theater coming to do the Bring Dr. DeSoto to life, my class was involved, then Ms. Huff's class was involved as well. And watching in real time, the students really seeing how they can actually bring something to life. They got to see the production team, they got to see the person that was leading it, the person who was over the sound. The exposure of it teaches them even more within the classroom that teaching or reading, it's not just reading the book. There's
a lot of
more.
different.
Yeah, and so even too with the district standards now, I guess I've had a lot more time this year. I've been perusing, and a lot of the standards have changed, right? I don't know why I know. Yeah, I'm not in school anymore, so now I guess put it to use. But a lot of the standards now are shifting to integrate that more into the curriculum as well too.
And it's also like, so you hear STEM and you hear STEAM, and this is a point of clarification we could provide, I think, for the larger parent body, is the whole point of a STEAM program is that you're engaging in problem solving. The point of STEAM,
Yeah,
we call it the engineering design process, yes, because it has foundations in engineering. The same step-by-step problem solving process exists in every industry, right? We could take, and we have taken, the engineering design process and developed a writing process that aligns with it. We have taken the EDP and we can develop an SEL process for solving problems that you experience in your social life. So I think it's less so in our space, in the elementary school space, about like math and science and more about exploration, curiosity, analysis, right, problem solving, risk taking, and just being able to attempt to solve a problem, evaluate the solution you came up with, and then make it better.
And I think that would be great to kind of give clarity to parents more, like that interdisciplinary nature of it, because like when you were talking about it, I automatically thought of civics and like how these absolutely apply. And then two, I think about at the teacher level, like an interdisciplinary approach to PDs that teachers are sent to. So it's not necessarily just, say falling under the criteria of what we traditionally think of STEM, but what are activities teachers can engage in to support problem solving or
Yeah.
engineering method.
But so I will say that if you think about like the words STEM, STEAM, science, math, engineering don't live in our mission and vision, but they are very much aligned to the idea of problem solving when you are working in STEM or STEAM, right? You're talking about communication, problem solving, complex issues, face the community and world, interdisciplinary experiences. So like this mission and vision were actually written before I came back to Maryland. When I was on my hiatus from Maryland, they were written, but they were rewritten to make it more aligned to the ideas of the engineering design process in STEAM. But no, you're totally right, we could provide some clarification on what that looks like in the classroom.
I think too, like one thing that just like being in lots of different meetings, trainings, all the things that I like take away from it is that like what we're doing is like trying to teach the kids like what it would really look like to be in the real world in a job, right? And regardless of what that job is. So like, what do I need to figure out in order to like answer this question? Do I need to ask an expert? Do I need to look something up? Do I like need to make observations? And like try and realizing that those things, it's not like, okay, now it's math time, so I'm just gonna like work on my math book, and now it's like reading time and I'm gonna read my book. Like, how are those things? Why are we like really, why are they all related? Like, I was the kid in school that was always like, why do I have to know this? Like, I would ask, like, why do I know this? That I did not like learning it, I just wanted to know.
Asking about what you.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's something true, you don't have to learn.
Teacher, and she was like, Lindley, why am I learning this?
It wasn't that I didn't wanna learn it, but I was like, why is this like helping me? Why is it relevant? And I think that like that, these kinds of things that we're doing, the kids can see.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
why something's relevant, right?
And I really like that framing and like at the
Mhm.
classroom level, it's like the culture is like interdisciplinary STEM, and I think, yeah, communicating that, because I mean, and to be honest, I just bristle at any like elementary school like I've seen IB elementary school, I'm like, what are y'all doing?
I marry you, I'm confused by thousands of different. In the world.
It's so hilarious. I also am curious about that, because it does cost a lot, and so like
It's very
the clusters that are IB, like, who's paying for that? Because where's our money?
We are.
So then so like, what's?
We don't get the equipment.
Exactly, so that is
Like,
very interesting. There is a lot of money to be in IB school because you're paying this organization that doesn't exist.
And
for
flying
students.
people all over for training.
There's a training, and I was hired in my other school, so a long, expensive training, yeah. That I don't know who paid for. Yeah.
And some drink.
Okay.
Okay, anyhow.
Any other announcements? Everybody.
Wrap it up, wrap it up.
We've hit the 2-minute mark. Our next go-team meeting is October 29th at 2:05. Please make sure it's on your calendars.
A lot going on that week.
I
Yes.
know.
Halloween.
We had to put it somewhere.
Had to. There's always a lot going on. All right, do we have to get a motion to adjourn?
And can I have a motion to adjourn? A second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstaining? No. Meeting